Gray is the newest brawler coming to the game, and he is the second brawler in the Brawlywood trio along with Lola. He stars in old-timey silent films, which is why he doesn't have any color, and I would show you his voice lines, but he doesn't have any voice lines either. He does a lot of miming during his acting and must have some sort of mind power because that's what he uses to fight. Despite not having color or voice lines, he does have pins, and I'll show them to you at the end of the video. Gray's main attack is Finger Pistol. He forms his bare hand into the shape of a pistol and fires it as if it were a gun. It essentially works just like it though, even though it doesn't fire any bullets, because he fires a magical dotted line that can only hit one target at a time. At the end of each attack, a sign will pop up on the ground indicating whether you hit an enemy or not. There's honestly nothing really special about this projectile, but I did want to mention really quickly that even though Gray does not have any voice lines, you do hear his voice every time he attacks because he makes little shooting noises with his mouth, and it's funny. I'll play those for you at the end of the video as well. Also, one very important note for this video, Supercell buffed Gray after I recorded the footage for this video, and I didn't have enough time to re-record everything, so although it looks like he does 1,590 damage with his attack, he'll actually do 1,740 damage at max level once he's released. I'll do my best to take this into account for the Olympics tests later on. Gray's super is Dimensional Door. He throws a portal down away from himself and instantly teleports to whatever the portal lands on, and another portal will form wherever he was standing on when he teleported. Now, these teleports will stay on the ground, and both he and his teammates can use them. He can only have 2 portals down at a time, and until he throws another portal down, his portals will stay on the map forever. Even if he dies, these portals basically act as regular teleporters, so they do have some cooldown time between each use. And like I said, his teammates can use them, but his enemies cannot use them. Now, the distance that he throws this portal is the same length no matter which direction you're aiming at, so even though you can aim it, you can't throw it any closer or further away from himself. However, you can actually shorten the distance of the super by like getting really close to the borders of the map and throwing it toward them, but like, I don't know how useful that actually is. Gray's first gadget is Walking Cane. For his next attack, he throws a cane and reels in whatever he hits a little bit closer to him, okay? The further away you are from the target, the further the gadget will pull the target, but the difference isn't actually that big. Even though Gray's attack has quite a bit of range for an attack that can pull enemies in, it doesn't actually pull them in the full length of the attack. It's kind of closer to like half the distance. Gray's second gadget is Grand Piano. He uses his next attack to summon a massive grand piano out of the sky. Whether the attack hits a target or not doesn't really matter, but wherever the attack ends, a giant target will appear, and a few seconds later, a grand piano crashes down on the target. Not only is the area of this gadget absolutely massive, but it also breaks walls, which is devastating against the enemy team sometimes. This gadget can easily destroy any wall that you want at any point in any match, and that's why it's so good. It deals as much damage as his regular attack, so yes, it does deal the boosted damage after he's actually released, but targets will have some time to try and get out of the landing zone, so keep that in mind. Gray's first star power is Fake Injury. As long as Gray has full health, the next attack that hits him will be nerfed by 25%. Now, if Gray does have the shield gear equipped, this star power activates even if the shield is not fully recovered, and as long as his health bar is full, the damage will be reduced, which means that there are situations where he'll be able to get hit by more than one hit thanks to his shield gear, or if he's got like Gus supporting him. So that's actually kind of interesting, and the shield gear will probably be pretty good with him. His second star power is New Perspective. Every time Gray or his teammates go through his portals, they'll recover 1,000 HP. Now, the portals never go away, and you can go through them as many times as you want, so this star power can actually provide a lot of healing if you go back and forth. Also, this does include the very first time Gray actually uses the super, so not only will he instantly teleport away to safety, he'll instantly gain 1,000 health as well, and if he uses his super on a teammate, then they'll both immediately heal 1,000 HP, which is actually pretty crazy. Now we're gonna put Gray's abilities to the test and see how it compares to all the other brawlers in the Brawl Stars Olympics. First up is the Supercharge test. It takes Gray 5 hits from his main attack to fully charge his super, and he only fires 1 projectile at a time. Since he has a slow reload speed and unload speed, it takes him 5.9 seconds to complete this test, and that puts him in 60th place out of the 62 brawlers in the game. Next is the boss test. Now, like I've said, Gray does not have a fast reload speed, and his main attack does not do a lot of damage, and his super doesn't help him at all, although he does get the help from his Grand Piano gadget, which also in the long run doesn't actually help him very much. He defeats the boss in 2 minutes 11 seconds and gets 58th place. Now, this is one test I cannot easily calculate a better score for thanks to the damage buff that he's going to get, so he might do a little bit better than this. Either way though, he is not a damage dealer. Next is the box test. Now, Gray's attack can only hit 1 box at a time, so he has a very slow start with this. Brawlers are not allowed to hit hit a group of boxes until all the boxes have like been destroyed in that area. So I couldn't even use his grand piano to destroy the last box group because otherwise it would stretch too far and hit the other boxes. He breaks open all the boxes in 1 minute and 25 seconds, and that puts him in 58th place for this test as well. And that suggests he's not going to be very good at ramping up damage in solo showdown. Next, we have the assassin test. Now, Gray only has time to unload 3 shots before his 3 seconds are up, and one of those shots summons a grand piano, and it does deal damage within that time, so he does get a little help from that. After Gray's buff, he would deal 6,960 damage in total, which would put him in 54th place. Next is the AutoAim test. His attack has a little bit of a delay when it fires, and the projectile speed isn't very fast, so it can only successfully auto-aim from 2 tiles away, even though its range is much further than that. This is enough to put him in 54th place. Next is the super damage test, and Gray's super doesn't deal any damage at all, even if it lands perfectly on an enemy target. Although, I suppose you could like summon a Daryl with his super to deal with the enemy, but that doesn't count. He ties with 11 other brawlers for 52nd place who also have supers that don't deal any damage. Next is the super range test, which his super has a range of 7 tiles in total, and as I mentioned, he actually can't throw it any shorter unless he's aiming against the very edge of the map, so it has to be 7 tiles away. And that also is going to make it a little bit more annoying for him to be able to like specifically target teammates to try and teleport with. Either way, this ties Gray with Ash for 50th place. Next is the splash test, and Gray uses all 3 of his grand pianos to deal damage to all of the boxes. By the time he's able to use his last gadget, he has enough power cubes to destroy the rest of the boxes with just 1 hit each. He finishes the splash test in 42 seconds, and that puts him in 50th place. Next, we have the reload test. Gray doesn't have any abilities that increases his reload speed, and since both his reload and unload speeds are below average, this test takes him a while to complete. He unloads and reloads 10 shots in 22.7 seconds and gets 46th place. Next, we have the 3 attack kill test. Each one of Gray's attacks deals 1,740 damage after his buff, and he doesn't have any abilities that boost that damage, so he can deal 5,220 damage with 3 attacks, which is enough to take out 35 brawlers in the game, including Janet, Colette, and Griff, and that's enough to tie him with Jean for 44th place. Next is the swarm test. Gray uses his grand piano to instantly take out over half of the bots. He's unable to destroy the rest of the bots in less time than it takes for a second grand piano to destroy them, so he just uses 2 gadgets to destroy all of them. Gray defeats the swarm in 8.2 seconds, and that puts him in 40th place. Next is the 1 second DPS test. He starts by aiming the grand piano next to the boss and waits a little bit before firing any more shots. By timing it just right, the grand piano deals its damage in between his next 2 attacks, and they all deal the same amount of damage within 1 second. After his buff, Gray would be able to deal 5,220 damage and get 38th place. Next is the area test. Gray breaks 18 skulls with his main attack and then breaks an additional 39 skulls with his gadget. Unfortunately, his super doesn't deal any damage and can't break any skulls, so he gets a total of 36th place. Next, we have the attack range test. Gray's attack reaches 8 2/3 tiles away, so he ties with Crow, Barley, Lola, Amber, and Otis for 33rd place. Next, we have the race test. Gray only has a normal movement speed like most brawlers, but he gets a major head start with his super. Not only does his super boost himself forward really far, but he also moves there instantly instead of waiting for some sort of animation to finish like Crow's super or El Primo's super. He finishes the race test in 9.8 seconds, which puts him in 18th place. Next, we got the survival test. I was able to film this after Gray's health was buffed to 4,950 HP. His HP lies between Tara's and Griff's HP. It's not the most, but it's definitely not the squishiest. But what allows him to do well in this test is his second star power that heals him 1,000 HP every time he uses his teleport. He's able to survive for 26.4 seconds, which is enough for 18th place in the survival Olympics. To be fair, Gray did not do very well in these tests, especially because his super doesn't deal any damage at all. And that's pretty normal in the Olympics for support brawlers because, like, you know, no other brawler can create a portal and send teammates through it. So let's talk about how strong I think he's going to be. First up, we got Gem Grab, and Gray actually seems pretty good in Gem Grab, and especially as a gem carrier because he can use his super to get himself out of any situation instantly, right? Even if he isn't the one carrying the gems, his portals can still make it very convenient for his teammates to escape with lots of gems. Also, putting a portal near his spawn would help him and his teammates get back into the fight every single time they die, which can actually be incredibly useful in Gem Grab. So, I think I think A tier is fair for gem grab. When it comes to Brawl Ball, also A tier. Mark my words, Gray's super is going to create all sorts of cheesy plays in Brawl Ball. He cannot bring the ball with him through portals, but he can shoot the ball forward and teleport instantly to where the ball would land. And that is going to make him a good brawler for Brawl Ball. But the cool thing is that his teammates can just like go on top of a portal, wait just a couple of seconds before it actually activates, kick the ball to where the other portal will be, and then kick it to themselves. So they'll be able to kick it themselves. And if they're a teammate like El Primo or Mortis that have other ways to self-pass, that could make for some really crazy combinations. I don't think that he deals enough damage to be S tier brawler for Brawl Ball, but I think he's at least good enough for A tier. Next we got Heist, and I can't give him better than D tier. I don't think. He just doesn't deal enough damage, right? I probably would have put him in the F tier, but I think that his portals actually might be pretty good for getting teammates like good spots near the enemy safe. Even then, you'd have to have the right brawlers on his team. Next we have Bounty, and I think that Gray's super will actually be pretty good for him helping, like being able to escape enemy shots. Also, he could be kind of an interesting counter to Piper, right? Like he could just instantly teleport right next to, I don't know if that's even useful. Probably not. Either way, he could probably use a little bit more damage, but even more importantly than that in Bounty, I just don't think that he has the range to compete with the best brawlers for Bounty, so I think B tier makes sense for him. Now, next we got Hot Zone, and he is, I think, an A tier brawler for Hot Zone. I've seen many players use Stu's Speed Zone gadget in the back of their spawn just to help their whole team get back to the fight faster, and that's a big reason why his gadget actually had to be nerfed. And like, Gray's super can do the exact same thing, except that it lasts the entire match and can't be destroyed. The amount of constant pressure that this will add, absolutely, I think will justify an A tier position for him in Hot Zone. Next we got Knockout, and Gray takes a while to charge up his super, so I think that Knockout probably is not going to be his get best game mode because he'll be off to a really slow start. Once again, his super could be pretty effective with the right team comp, but it's still kind of easy to read, so I'm going to put Gray in the B tier for Knockout. Next is Solo Showdown, and I don't think he's going to be very good at Solo Showdown. He takes a very long time to open up boxes. His range is just like a little bit above average, and his burst damage is not impressive at all. Honestly, the only thing keeping him out of the F tier in Solo Showdown is just the fact that he can use his super to just escape in weird situations, right? As for Duo Showdown, I mean, like, yeah, I guess C tier, a little bit better. It's not much of a different story for him since his attacks can only hit one target at a time. However, his portal can be used by his teammates, so like, there might be some situations where using the portal would be useful. Yeah, but C tier seems to be right for Duo Showdown. I want to hear you guys' thoughts on Gray, okay? His super is crazy unique, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were some like really interesting strategies that I haven't thought of yet that are going to make him pretty good. And now his pins and a few of his sound effects.